everyone. I am CBR lead editor Meagan Damore here with the next episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier Aftershow. I am joined, like I was last week, by CBR contributor Cree Michelle, who will be breaking the episode down with me. And boy, we have some thoughts about this episode. And of course, we will be diving into some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode, this is your chance to back out now, unless you have seen the episode or want to be spoiled, in which case, carry on. So I got to start out with him. He's the hot button topic for everybody, I think. John Walker. Oh my gosh, you have some thoughts about John Walker. Why don't you get us started with that?
I have so many thoughts about John Walker. I mean, I love characters like this because they have that they add the juxtaposition, if you will, between our heroes, and it makes it very easy to not like them because they're not our heroes. But one line from the Expendables 3, you remember that beautiful gem of a movie, right? One line from that movie stood out to me halfway through this episode. They were fighting with the old heads were fighting with the younger crowd. And one of the young ones was saying something about you're old and cranky, so you don't get it. And Jason Statham's character, Lee Christmas, turned around and was like, and you're young and you're dumb. I was like, oh, that's twofold, you know, that hits home. You can't come back against that because you are young. And because you were young, you were inexperienced, and how you're handling the situation ain't exactly the best way to do it. So you're kind of dumb. It just all goes in together. And halfway through the episode, watching how John Walker was acting, it was like, you're young and you're dumb, and it is palpable. So much about this character was just like thickening in the air. He is young and dumb.
I think that is a good way to put it, because, you know, we get that opening with him where he's obviously he's intimidated by the role that he's about to step into, obviously.
Rightfully so.
And they go through his background a little bit, and, you know, he's an exemplary soldier. He's smart, et cetera, et cetera. His heart's in the right place. He's like, you know, it takes guts. It's not about the glory of it. He's got some good instincts about it.
Yes.
But there's this sense of entitlement from him that just sort of spoils it. So I think he is a lot like the comic book character in that way. Like, obviously it's a different interpretation, but just, I don't know. It's like you said about you're young and you're dumb. You haven't earned the respect yet from Sam and Bucky.
You haven't earned the respect from really anybody. You've got citizens who don't know how things work. They just think that, okay, he's obviously qualified because they just gave him the mantle. So we're going to, as a civilian, civilians are like, okay, cool, this is what's going on. You haven't earned that from the actual people out here doing the job that you're signing yourself up for, or that you accepted. You can't expect them to just accept you like that. You're not an Avenger. You haven't been in any of the movies. They have, you know, you have to earn those ranks, and he wasn't trying to earn it. And that also makes me think about how Cap was in, you know, the first Avenger. He earned the super soldier serum. He earned his place as Captain America because he wasn't as strong and fast and athletically fit as the other guys, but he still managed to put himself in the line of fire because Cap does what is right. He has that innate feeling to think, this is what I think is right, and I'm going to do it. That is why he earned the mantle. That's why he didn't have to do as much or take as many tests and skills and such as John Walker. He didn't need that. His personality was enough. That's not the same for John Walker's personality at all.
Yeah, it's like, it felt to me like his attitude was, the government said I'm Captain America, thereby
I am Captain America.
I am Captain America. Everybody should respect me. These guys should respect me. And, like, to be honest, I don't think Sam and Bucky respected each other at first. It's a lot of the inherent trust that they have with each other comes from not only being friends with Steve, but they've been through the ish together.
Yes, they have.
Right.
It's kind of like how Gimli and Legolas, their friendship developed because they were in battle together. First, he sees a pretty elf. He's like, I don't care about you. And Legolas is like, okay, you're a rough dwarf. I don't care about you. But then they fight together, and suddenly there's this beautiful friendship that blossoms because there's that respect that is earned. And the only way to earn respect from a soldier or a fighter is to fight. And you have done, not that you haven't done anything, you haven't punched an alien in the face. So
did you fight Thanos? I don't think so.
I don't think you did. I don't think you did.
Yeah, it's just he's so desperate for their approval, but at the same time just sort of expects it to happen, like doesn't think there's going to be any transition, doesn't have any concept of the notion that they aren't just mourning Captain America, they are mourning
a friend.
Yes, the loss of a friend, the loss of Steve Rogers as a person, and instead of a symbol. So to see him with that shield, yeah, it's gonna rub them the wrong way a little bit, especially after what Sam went through to arrive at that decision to give it up and not even expect that they would give it away at her first friend.
I remember when they were, okay, so this is one of the funnier moments when they were walking and he pulls up in the army truck and he's like, oh yeah, get in, it's this many miles, and he's trying to get them, to talk and figure everything out together, and it's not working, which I loved. Okay, I loved the snub, and I also loved that Bucky was straight up and down, like, just because you have the shield doesn't make you Captain America. I was like, I could hang out with Bucky, okay? I need someone who's just gonna shoot straight from the hip, and all I gotta do is be like, yeah, what he said. Like, I love that energy, but that's not the point. When they actually do get in the truck, he says, I'm kind of the government. You know what I mean? That phrase is so anti-Captain America, it's frightening. Okay, to sit there and think that, and it also shows what he thought of Captain America, what he thinks of the position. It's a government position, not someone who was doing what was right, not someone who in his long history, comics and in the movies, went against the grain because of what he thought was right. He thinks Captain America is a government puppet, not a free man. And that rubbed both of them the wrong way. Oh my gosh, you could see it in their face. They were like, you have no idea.
Yeah, and I think the way that they're adapting this character in particular is that they're really taking the spirit of the character in that he's lawful good. Like, his idea, his moral compass is following orders. And we know historically that doesn't necessarily always end up good, obviously, but his sense of moral right and wrong has always been, I will do what my superiors tell me is right. Yep. This is my moral compass. Whereas Steve Rogers was chaotic good because he was like, I know what's right, and I'm going to do it no matter what anybody tells me, which is what we see in the Winter Soldier.
The Winter Soldier, yeah.
When he decides to go against orders, like, he realizes something is fishy, and you know what he did? He uprooted Hydra from
exactly, because if he didn't do that, it's this guy, he's young and he's dumb, because there's a certain amount of experience you have to be able to see things for what they really are. You can get a packet of information, but reading between the lines is where you figure out, okay, something's not right here. This isn't okay. I'm trying to think of another line that he said that was just like, I don't think
I can tell you one. I can tell you one, because this one stood out to me, in that Sam and Bucky were kind of like, how did you find us? Like, because
Walker
shows up in the middle of their fight with the Flag Smashers, and Walker was like, oh, well, Red Wing is government property, so we just tracked your location here. And he saw nothing wrong with
that. He even mentioned it later on when they're like talking outside the station when they got arrested. He was like, they mentioned that, you're more meetings, not missions. We're free agents. It's not good. We're not going to be able to work together the same way because you need to go through all kinds of protocol and regulation. We don't have to do that. Sorry, we're not going to do that, because when things need to get done, things need to get done. You're the little yes man, and you don't see any problem with that, which is kind of disgusting.
Yeah, it's the second major violation that Sam experiences too. The first being the shield being given away without any notice. They didn't even give him a
They didn't care. They didn't think to. They're like, oh, it's in the Smithsonian. It's ours now. Go ahead and give it away. No, that's not how that works.
Even as a courtesy, just to
message him. Yes, he had to find out through the television. Listen, that is one of the worst ways to find something out that has to do directly with you. That is the ultimate eighth party situation, finding something out. And it's not like they don't have his number.
Yep. They had him speak at the memorial, so clearly
there's communication there.
Right. There's a connection, there's a contact.
Yep.
They understand after the speech, especially, what that means to him. So, for all that being an Avenger and saving the world is so good, they can't even give him the courtesy to give him a heads up.
Nope. You'll find out when you find out. And that's the kind of thing that Steve would pay attention to with the government, because they operate on facts. And everyone's had an argument with that guy, John Walker's that guy who's like, I have the facts on my side and you're just being emotional. And it's like, sometimes you got to know when a situation needs to be responded to emotionally. If you feel that something is not right, that is fine. That is valid enough to stand up against something. You know what I mean? Not everything has to be like, oh, this statistic says this, that, and the third. Okay. And you don't see anything wrong with this, that, and the third. Come on now, things aren't that black and white. The world is not that black and white.
Right, Jesus. But the world is black and white to John Walker. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
And he thinks that everybody else sees the way that he does. I think that's really where the entitlement stems from, because he's like, oh, well, the government says so, yes, this is morally correct. And thus, everybody else should think this way. And they don't.
They don't.
Sam and Bucky obviously marching to the beat of their own drummer, Steve Rogers being like that. And like, when it comes down to it, it seems like John really seems to think that this is all just symbolic, almost like an act.
Yeah.
Throughout the episode, he's dropping these like capisms, I called them.
Yes.
Like, we've got to work together, da 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 da. And it sounds so canned coming from John Walker, whereas with Steve Rogers, that was coming from his heart. He was saying it because he believed it. But John Walker, it's just, I'm saying this because I'm playing a role and I feel like it's necessary for me to say that.
Say it, because this is what should be said. It's like when you finally learn how to write an essay to get an A, and you start using those SAT words because your teacher likes them, and it sounds nothing like you. You are not relating to these words at all. You could barely spell it. If it wasn't for spell check in your dictionary, you would have failed. But you use them because that's what you think is the right way to do it. And then once you learn your own way to speak, you're like, oh, that was robotic.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. So I was, chatting with CBR editor Caitlin Chappelle, who did the Wonder Vision after show with me. We were just chatting about John Walker and our very strong feelings about him. And she said to me, John Walker is the guy who asks a girl out on a date like 5 times in a row. He just will not take no for an answer. And then when it finally gets through his thick skull that she's not into it, he goes around telling everybody that she's a B. Like, yep. He asks Sam and Bucky, he pulls out all the steps. He like buys them flowers in a
essentially
government sense.
Like, hey, you don't have to go to therapy anymore. Says when he did this thing,
you're welcome.
I was upset. Okay. And it's like, I would rather take therapy than dealing with you. I don't think you really understand. I hate therapy. Just to give you a frame of context of how much I don't want to work with you. I hate therapy. You know what I mean? That was Bucky's mentality. And it's like, oh my gosh, this guy. And then when they left the station, I mentioned it earlier, but he turned on the siren to get their attention. I was like, ooh.
Oh no. No. And that being the point where he was like, well, don't get in my way. Just again, the entitlement of it, just this mix of all of these elements coming together into one moment where you know that it almost felt fake. Like, I think he, like I said, I believe he has good intentions. I believe that he thinks he's doing the right thing, but his methods are horrible.
Because he's never had to think for himself. He thinks according to what he is told. And when you do not have that ability to think for yourself, everything you do is going to come off completely wrong. Okay, like you're going to have all the good intentions in the world, but it's not going to come out right because there's nothing genuine behind it. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're staring into a sociopath's eyes, you're like, there's no light back there. Why is your smile so creepy? It's because there's nothing back there. There's nothing. And that's unfortunately John Walker's Captain America. There's nothing but the government back there. And the government is a faceless being.
Yeah, which might not, the government has like self-preservation. I feel like it's not the best for everyone. It's the best for this certain sect of people. This is, and what might be good for America might not be good for other places. But John Walker doesn't care because it's not about people. It's about saying yes and protecting the interests of another party, as opposed to this is right. And it's, to be fair, it is difficult to, like, everybody has a different sense of what is right? Yeah. But there are some objective truths, like we should try to protect as many people as we can, no matter what other people are telling us, that kind of a thing. But John Walker, I believe, would not be the kind of guy that's like, I need to defy the order to carry that out. He would have gone along with the Hydra stuff.
Exactly. He would have been like, okay, cool. These blimps are awesome. You're gonna spy on humanity. That's cool. Go ahead. Yeah. I'll just let me know when you need me.
Yeah. Let me know how I can help.
Let me know. Oh, I can go to the break room. Deuces. Like, no, John, get back here, you young idiot.
You young idiot.
You young idiot.
I also noticed as I was watching that there are some very subtle moments where he obviously has superpower envy. When he's fighting the Flag Smashers, especially, and he's like looking at Bucky doing his,
Bucky thing.
Yeah, his Bucky thing. There is this element where you can see how envious he is of them, and that's also not a good trait to have, because really Captain America, Steve Rogers, was never an envious person. And that can be manipulated and make you do bad
things, okay? Because you were acting out of insecurity. That's the other side to entitlement that no one ever talks about, and no one ever acknowledges. You feel entitled to these things because you were insecure. You feel entitled to these things because these things will validate you. So you are trying to force that to come into your life rather than genuinely accepting it as a fact or working to earn it. And not working to earn it, you end up looking like John Walker. So guys, whenever someone says like, hey, don't be that guy, we're talking about John Walker. From now on, that guy is referred to as John Walker. So don't be that guy.
And I do want to bring up too, real quick, that in the comics, John Walker does get his powers. He does get powers. He becomes a super soldier, like he clearly wants to. From the power broker, who was semi-introduced in this episode. We do not actually see who the power broker is.
Yes.
As an entity, it is introduced. And just quickly, in the comics, the power broker is more of like a conglomerate, like a company that is run by Curtis Jackson, who is not in the comics too much. So there's like a lot of wiggle room for adaptation there, if that's the way they're gonna go. But this company would give people powers. It didn't matter what their affiliation was, just so long as you could front the cash, he would experiment on you and give you,
You get superpowers.
You get superpowers. Of course, the drawback of it was they would also inject it with a like an addictive, I hesitate to say drug, but I guess that's the best word to use.
Kind of like a nicotine type of thing, you know what I mean? Yes. Like something to make you keep coming back for it.
Right. That wasn't necessary to the process.
But no.
The money. So yes, I think nicotine is a really good comparison there, because they wanted these people coming back, and basically you'd get hooked and have withdrawal symptoms if you didn't have it. So obviously, if John does that in this season, I think it's very likely.
Yes, but, you're on the path.
He's on the path, and it's probably not going to end well, because again, once you're addicted to something, that's another way that somebody can manipulate you.
Yes.
And turn you against people. I also want to just name drop Dr. Carl Malice as well, who is involved in this process and famously engineered a bunch of supervillains, and also experimented on Joaquin Torres, which led him to become the new Falcon.
Yeah, so now that had a good ending. It's just no.
I don't know. Like I'm hoping for the best for Torres. He was not in this episode enough. I love him.
Yeah, when I saw his face, I was like, oh, I like him. Oh, he's gone. Okay, it's fine. He said some lines. I got my dose. As long as I get at least 5 minutes of him, I'm good.
Joaquin Torres is your nicotine for this.
Yes.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Dr. Malice is introduced, or if he's who becomes the power broker.
Power broker, like if it just comes together. Yeah.
And if Torres unfortunately ends up in his grasp. But we're talking about John Walker, so let's get back to that. I just wanted to do a quick explanation of
like the more you know kind of situation.
But yeah, since we're on the topic of John Walker, let's talk about Lamar too. Lamar Hoskins.
Yes.
Battlestar. You had some thoughts about him, so why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Oh God. I don't know how many internet arguments you've been in.
I try to avoid them, to be honest.
yeah. I learned a little too late to avoid them. Whenever you're arguing with someone's always quick to say, well, my insert minority here friend said that it's okay. That one doesn't speak for everyone. And Lamar is really giving off my Black friend vibes, you know, the one that just justifies everything. Hey, it's not bad that the government said to do this because Lamar said it was cool. You want to go based off of Lamar, your little token yes man? No. He's going to say yes to anything because you say yes to everything. Like the fact that you're Captain America, he's now hanging around as Battlestar. And it's like, we didn't even need you. You're just back there saying, yeah, that's my friend. Yeah, he's cool. Yeah. And he said this. It's like, no, stop. Oh my gosh, you're so annoying. Which, you know, only goes back to that theme of they're young and they're dumb and they're doing what they think is right, even though they have no experience with life to know whether or not what is actually right or wrong. Good intentions, bad execution, blah, blah, blah. It's just right quick, you know?
I'm very interested. I feel like we will get to hear more from Lamar down the line, because he didn't have too much of a voice here, I would say. Like, he was kind of just that yes man that you were talking about. Like, he was just kind of there to be like, yeah, I'm backing you up, John. And like you said, like, oh, I'm the Black friend saying yes to this, even though I
have no thoughts of my own. I'm just, you know, the one they'll put on the poster next to him to say diversity, you know, like
that's what it feels like.
And to be honest, I don't even know if we're going to get much more from him. Like, I feel like that is his role. If he says anything more, I'm going to be surprised. Like, I wasn't expecting much more from him. Like, after they had the whole locker room scene, I was like, okay, we're not going to see this guy again. And then he's like, I'm Battlestar. And I'm like, who named you? You know what I mean? Like, who is this guy? Who brought him, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with that, because Battlestar also receives powers from the Power
Yes.
Master, and has his own kind of legacy, but not legacy in that somebody else takes his name, but that he's part of that fabric of the Captain America legacy in the comics.
Yeah.
So there is more to the character that can be said, but since this show is so crowded, and
there's so much going on.
There's so much going on. I think they're doing a really good job at balancing all of it, but because there is so much going on, I'm interested to see where they go.
Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
But speaking of sidekicks, I'm gonna switch us over to our next topic, being Red Wing. This is going to be pretty fast, but rest in peace, Red Wing. After last week, you said that Red Wing felt like a droid from Star Wars. Oh, how are you feeling? Are you holding up okay?
Hurt. It broke my heart to see them just grab Red Wing and just it was terrible. It was like, imagine if they did that to R2D2. How would you feel? No one likes to see droids get hurt. Okay, it's not fun. It's like when I was younger, I would hate watching horses fall in movies because they're so big, and when they fall, it's like, can they get up? Will they be okay? There's so much mass there. What if, you don't, there's just some things you don't want to see get hurt. And that's how I feel about droids. And then Red Wing got snapped, and I was like, no, it's the horses all over again. Like, I was having all kinds of flashbacks.
I thought of you when that happened. I was like, oh no, Cree is going to be crushed when she finds out about poor Red Wing over here.
What I'm hoping.
And then the betrayal of he was working for the government.
It wasn't his fault. Red Wing was a pawn.
He was a pawn.
I'm making that canon. Okay, Marvel, if you watch this, Red Wing was a pawn and he deserves his own spin-off series. Okay? I want to see the episode where they chain him down and they put the little bug in him, because he would not have done that.
Red Wing coming to Disney Plus. Yes. I feel like Torres has to make him a new one, right?
That's what I'm thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, Red Wing was way too useful of an item for them to just be like, oh, Red Wing's gone. Plus, we already saw Sam kind of working on stuff too. So it was like, okay, so it's not impossible for them to make together a new Red Wing. They just have to keep it out of government hands, because if someone snaps another Red Wing, I'm going to come in the show and snap some necks myself. Okay, Red Wing's not getting hurt again. Not on my watch.
Yeah, I think that's really going to come into play, because they really set up that he was interested in the technology. Sam is incredibly smart, but I don't know that he is smart. So I feel like Torres will step in and help. And I do want to say that I loved that even though he's a drone or a droid or a robot or whatever, Bucky was all, I don't trust him.
Trust him, yeah. He's a droid. You guys cannot argue with me on this anymore. He is a droid now because they are referring to him as a person. I do not trust Red Wing. Oh, why do you not trust BB-8? What's wrong? I'm loving this. I'm genuinely loving this. And he has to come back, and that gives me more Torres screen time. So it's a win-win-win-win-win all around for me. Okay.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
And when Torres becomes the new Falcon, maybe he'll inherit his own little Red Wing, which would
do that to me. Don't do that. Don't ever say that to me again. Oh my God.
We've got 4 more episodes, so we don't have to wait that long to figure it out. Okay, now that we've gotten our Red Wing feelings out, I'm going to move us along to Carly Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers, because we learned a little bit more about them, not a ton. I feel like we're going to learn a tragic backstory for Carly.
Yeah.
But we did not learn it here. We didn't learn a backstory here necessarily. We just learned more about the organization, who's really running it, and the superpowers. But I think the perception of them is really interesting.
Yes.
That they were called Robin Hood by the man who gave them shelter, and their whole mantra, the one world, one people, that's not
It's not bad.
No, it's not a bad goal.
Yes.
There seems to be, I don't know, I feel like I wish we'd gotten more of that
Yes.
episode.
Yes,
Maybe
yes,
we feel the
yes.
same. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
When I'm thinking about the flag smashers, wow, snatchers, oh my God. When I'm thinking about these guys, the Robin Hoods, if you will, the weird thing about them is that it feels like I'm being told a lot about them, not so much shown what they're doing. Like, yeah, we got to see them taking the medicine and doing all the stuff, but we don't get to see them actually be humanitarians. You know, we don't get to see them do the good things that they're allegedly doing. So I'm missing this real connection. Like, I get the idea that you're setting up. Everyone has said it a million times. I'm there, I understand, but I'm not feeling it as much as I think the show wants me to feel it. And that's where I agree with you that we might get this tragic backstory that actually adds in the feelings on top of what we know. Because my head knows what they're going for. My head understands concept, but thinking about life during the blip, it's like, no, that wasn't a good life at all. Like, you guys were struggling, a lot of depression and hurt feelings and lost loved ones. It was a very bad time. And yes, you guys came together to build up from that. And that's a beautiful sentiment. But that doesn't mean that life was better then. Unless there were some people who blipped that you really didn't like. Like, I mean, that's a personal thing, not a worldwide thing. So I'm missing that part where I'm like, I can't argue with them because I feel for them. You know, I'm missing that element. And I'm hoping that tragic backstory comes in to add layers, if you will.
Yeah, because what they're doing is good, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of, their methods aren't great, obviously, but they're trying to defy this sort of bureaucracy that is preventing some people from getting help fast enough. And there's nothing wrong with that in my mind. Like the trying to help people as fast as possible and getting that help to the neediest population, as opposed to like medications going to rich people first. Like
yes.
right, they get the primo spot because they paid for it or wherever. But sort of that equal distribution, the equity,
Yes.
more than anything. Like
Because
that.
when I was thinking about how Sam didn't get the loan, you know, because yeah, we had to make stricter policies and blah, blah, blah. Those stricter policies are everywhere now. Everyone has stricter policies because we went 5 years without people, we adapted, then they came back. So now we can't just pretend like they're not back. You know, that's 500 million people back and that we have to account for. And it's this whole new world structure that some people at the top are now taking advantage of. And those at the bottom who are now back in poverty are like, what am I supposed to do? And it's as if they're like, yeah, you got to just die again because I don't know how to help you. If you can't get around the parameters, what am I supposed to do? And it's like, that's not good.
It's not fair.
Not fair.
And I know, to quote Scar, life's not fair, but it's nobody's fault that they got snapped away, right? Like, although exactly. I suppose people are blaming the Avengers for it because that's what we got in WandaVision with Tyler Ward, and he was blaming the heroes for their failure and for people getting snapped away. But it is not the normal person's fault that they
exactly. It's only Star-Lord's fault, and if everyone would just acknowledge that and take it out on him, we'd be good. Like,
I agree with you there. I've heard pro, but I'm still holding a grudge against Star-Lord.
Yes. Yes.
Not that anybody would know that. Not that anybody in the MCU would really know that outside of like.
Yeah, no one would know, but still, if we out them right quick.
At any rate, it's not their fault, and they're being punished systematically for something that is not their own fault.
Yes.
And that is an injustice in this world. And I mean, it's an injustice anywhere. Like,
it's not like it's not actually happening. It's just now what was happening before is now happening under harsher circumstances. So it's like, oh, great, it just got worse, you know?
Right. And so, like I said, the Flag Smashers pushing back against that isn't necessarily bad. They have a good cause that they're fighting for, but it might not necessarily be the right way to go about it. like, I feel like we haven't seen anybody be killed yet, but
Yeah,
they're holding back against Bucky and Sam, that's for sure.
exactly.
And it wasn't until Walker and Battlestar showed up that it was, because I refuse to call Walker Cap,
Yeah,
Cap. But
that's not his name. That's not your name, sir. You are Walker.
It seems to me that they might be willing to kill if they haven't.
If they have to, yeah.
And that's not good.
No.
But, you know, it's complex. It's a complex issue. And yeah, I think we'll get some more tragic backstories and things like that. But from what we've learned so far, are they really so wrong?
No, because sometimes in a world where there's so much red tape around everything, every simple little action, sometimes you have to take that aggressive action to correct it. And it's not always the comfortable thing, but that's what made Captain America. Ooh,
I it back. I like that.
You see how that works? Yeah.
Yeah, it is very much a more Captain America move. It's just,
yes,
where do they draw the line? Like, are they're it seems like they're willing to hurt people, and that's not right. That's not
exactly.
Like, Cap always acted in defense, and they're kind of acting offensively, and I think that's where you kind of cross that line from these are heroic actions to it's a little more dubious. So that's I think where we stand on the Flag Smashers. But let's keep talking about a complex issue, because we got a pretty stunning reveal in this episode. Because we met Isaiah Bradley, who in the comics was, I believe, the first Captain America, and he was the Black Captain America.
Yes. Gosh,
like, how did you react? Like, what was your reaction when you heard the name Isaiah?
It was weird because a while ago, like a few years ago, I was just looking up stuff because I had this thing that I did for One Black History Month where I was like, hey, why don't we make it about superheroes? So I would look up superheroes from DC and Marvel, and every day I'd post superheroes and be like, hey, did you guys know these guys existed? Blah, 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 blah. And Isaiah Bradley was one of the ones that I looked up, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I started reading about him. Oh, he's first. Oh, he was the first. He was first. So I kept going, you know, it was this weird throwback to this information that I learned a long time ago. But of course, when you get back wrapped up into what the current comics are doing, the current movies are doing, you kind of put things to the side. And when he was talking and he talked about ripping Bucky's arm off, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I know this guy. And then, you know, when he threw the Altoids can, I think it was like Altoids can.
Yeah,
something. He threw it stuck in the wall. I was like, Marvel, no, you didn't. Marvel, that's amazing. Marvel, you guys are so good at being like, this is the information that is needed for this episode. You are welcome. It's amazing how they brought everything back. And then when he started talking about, you know, being in prison and the tests, it people don't understand just how much comics actually do parallel real life. These guys aren't getting these stories from nowhere. They're all like, they all relate to some degree. Because when he was talking about being in prison and being tested on and taking his blood, I was thinking about the Tuskegee incident when syphilis was running through the military. And in order to test on it, they had their Black soldiers and their white soldiers. The white soldiers got the medicine, the Black soldiers got the placebos, and they would study the effects of syphilis on the Black soldiers and let them die because they wanted to know everything that this had to do with, like, they wanted to know everything about syphilis. Didn't matter that these men were dying, you know?
And too.
Exactly. It was I can't stand it when people try to separate reality and comics. They're like, oh, they're superheroes. And I was like, yes, but their problems and the things that they go through stem from actual life. Like, it's really hard not to see these parallels. Like, it even when we're just talking about X-Men, I mean, just calmly talking about X-Men, I can't talk about mutants and mutant rights without thinking about where it came from. Like there's no division. And when you try to make that division, you're blatantly ignoring what comics were built off of. I mean, Superman was made by two Jewish men, you know? That wasn't just because they were goofing around. They needed that escape. They wanted something to come in and help them. Comics help on so many different levels. And when they showed Isaiah, I was like, Marvel, y'all just keep doing it. And I don't know when you're going to stop it. I don't want you to stop it. I'm never ready when you do it. You know, that entire scene was heartbreaking. It really was. But I will say on a positive note, Grandpa looked good.
I was just going to say, Carl Lumbly, who first of all played, or rather voiced, Martian Manhunter in
yes,
and appeared in Supergirl as Martian Manhunter's father. Both wonderful roles.
Yes,
he delivered such an amazing performance there.
Yes,
it was like goosebumps. I did a fantastic job, and of course he did, because it's Carl Lumbly. But
I don't know what you expected. Like
exactly.
He could just stand on screen and be quiet, and I'm like, yes, do it again. You know, like he's great. He's great.
And I'm of two minds, I think, where I want to see this character again because I want to see Carl Lumbly again, because he is so good at this, and what a legend, being two like incredible comic book characters from Marvel.
Yes.
But I also am like, let Isaiah rest. Like, he deserves his, like, kind of like Bucky said, where he was like, I didn't tell anybody because I wanted him to be left alone, because obviously that's like what he wants, is to be left alone.
Yes, it's no longer like, I understand Sam's frustration, because he's sitting here thinking, okay, they only did this for, you know, the white soldiers, and they were only giving this honor to them. And then of course, when they do pick another Captain America, it is another white man. So I understand Sam feeling, you know, he's in his feelings. But when Bucky was like, listen, man, I just wanted him to rest, because Bucky does understand what it's like to be tested, prodded, probed, forced to do things against your will. And while Bucky understands that level, he respects and understands on a mental level that there was some racism involved in those actions. So he's just like, let the man chill. All right. He has been through what I've been through, and then some. All right. Let the man, I'm sorry. I know this is a big deal for you, because I get it. I do. But the man needed his rest. You saw him in there. He needed his rest. And it's like, I'm with you. I'm with you. I would love for like one fight to happen, and they're like, we don't know what to do. Or someone throws the shield and Isaiah catches it. And it's like, you know, like I would love my nerd out moment like that. But no, the man needs a nap, a good 20-year nap. Like,
he deserves peace. And you're right. I feel like they do, Bucky and Isaiah do share that trauma. Mm-hmm. And it's for different reasons, because the bad guys tortured Bucky, right?
Yes.
For the good guys, the people that Isaiah fought for, were the same people that were experimenting on him and put him in prison and essentially tortured him for 30 years. And this is the same government that John Walker is yes-sirring, which tells you a lot about what John Walker stands for and why it's problematic that he does what he does and what his motivations are. Nothing sums that up more tragically than in Isaiah.
And it's so crazy, because people will be like, well, maybe he doesn't know. Maybe they didn't tell him that information, because, you know, the government keeps things a secret. It's like, the government tells you a certain amount of information. Your job is to question that. Because, I mean, that's what we learned in school. They just don't want us to actually apply it. They give you a book of a thing of literature. Hey, read this book and analyze the context. Okay, so reading this context, I'm going to ask these questions, because it's like, okay, so why did he choose the color red in this theme? You know, you ask questions to get a deeper understanding. John Walker's not asking any questions, and his ignorance is more on him than anything else. He's allowing himself to be a puppet, a little Barbie doll for the government. And if you're allowing yourself to be a Barbie doll, you are also responsible for the information that you are not trying to get, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's just, that scene I thought was very, very powerful. I think they did a very, very nice job with that. I also want to shout out, that had to be Eli, right? That had to be Eli Bradley, who in the comics goes on to become Patriot of the Young Avengers. And he sort of, Cree, you're so excited.
Sorry, it's so cute. It's so cute. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's just, at this point, there's no doubt in my mind that they're setting up a Young Avengers film.
Oh yeah, with Wanda's kids being out there too. Oh yeah.
Wanda's kids. We have Cassie Lang being played by Catherine Newton and
yes,
Mania. We have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness introducing Miss America.
Yes.
We have Hawkeye, of course, delving into that relationship with Kate Bishop. So basically, we have more or less a full set, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Kid Loki out of
Loki. That's the missing piece. I was like, we're missing somebody.
Yes, but we're
getting young Loki? It's happening. It's happening.
Eli was another missing piece to me. I was like, can they really do Young Avengers without Eli? And I was thrilled to see somebody they didn't name him. They didn't say what his name was. But in the comics, Eli helps take care of his grandfather.
Yep.
So
listen, they didn't need to name him. I'm naming him. That's his name. That's Eli.
Here comes the Patriot. And he's sure to be a better Cap super soldier guy than John Walker.
By far.
Okay. Now, do you have anything else you want to add there before we move on to the last section?
I think I got it all out.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Because the last, and certainly not least, we have to talk about Sam and Bucky and their entire dynamic. And I want to start out by addressing something that you brought up. So I'm going to throw it to you. But this idea of expectation. This expectation theme that is run throughout this episode, and I would say in the first episode as well. So I'm sure we'll see that continue. But would you mind elaborating on it?
I would love to, because my AP literature skills kicked in, and I was like, yeah, it's a theme. The theme of expectations. Everyone in this show has a certain idea of what they thought Captain America was, what they thought he did. And with that thought in mind, they put these expectations on their shoulders as to what they were supposed to do. And just like we spoke before, Cap is not the type of guy who's like, I do what's right all the time. No, he does what he believes is right. He gets rid of the hesitation that most people have to act on what he believes is right. Is he always right? No. Can he be a bit stubborn and annoying? Yes. But, that's what makes Cap Cap. And that's what's so crazy when they're like, oh my gosh, I have the shield now. What am I supposed to do? Like in the beginning of the episode, you had John Walker sitting there, like practicing his lines, trying to figure out how he was going to be, the Captain America, right? So forced, absolutely forced. But, you got to give it to him, blah, 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 right? And even he's like, I've just been doing meetings and handshaking and signing and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, that's technically what the government kind of thought of Captain America too. They thought of him as a symbol of peace. And okay, there's another expectation of what you're supposed to be, this symbol, this once again Barbie doll for the government. Then you have Sam, who's like, I don't want the shield because those are big shoes to fill. I don't think I can do what Cap did. And once again, it's not what you're supposed to do, and even everyone else's expectations of him. Why didn't you take the shield? You were supposed to take the shield. No one's sitting here like, okay, actually talk to me about why you didn't take the shield. Not why didn't you take the shield? They all come at him in an accusatory way. And then you got poor old Bucky. Poor old Bucky.
Just traumatized, sad Bucky.
He's not supposed to be Captain America. He's not supposed to be a hero. He's just supposed to be a civilian. He's supposed to be at Disney World right now, eating a Mickey Mouse ice cream cone, like that's what he's supposed to do.
Right? Like he's expected to be normal and to reintegrate into society. And that is so much of an ask for him. That's a huge ask for this guy who's not only displaced in time, like he's 160 years old, come on
guys,
but also to have all of that trauma and to carry the weight of all of the stuff that he did, to be expected to be normal in any capacity is a massive ask.
It's so unfair. And I think he honestly has the hardest one. Everyone else is like, I'm supposed to do this, that, and the third. And Bucky's like, I wish Cap gave me the shield. I'd be fine right now. Oh, Cap, you want me to continue fighting? You ain't said nothing but a word. I got you. Give me that shield. You know, he'd be fine with that because it'd be something familiar to him. He has something that's so completely out of the norm. Like Sam, yeah, you are worried about filling those shoes, but it's not like you can't do that. Once you get an idea of what Cap actually is and what he stood for, and you realize, oh, I just have to do that for me, you're good. Bucky will never be able to ride any of the Disney World rides chilling because he's just like, am I supposed to punch the animatronic or am I supposed to watch the animatronic? Like, what am I supposed to do here? I'm not understanding this relaxation concept, you know? And this theme of expectation is just going to continue on throughout the show until they realize, hey, chill. I promise you all have this in your own capacity, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like because of Bucky's inherent goodness, because he is a good guy, I mean, if he wasn't a good guy, he would not feel guilt-ridden for the things that he did that were beyond his own control. Like he could be a Cap. I'm more like, to be clear, I'm more than happy with Sam as he deserves the shield because he is so wholesome. Because Sam, what was Sam doing? He's just trying to make the best out of a bad situation.
Yes.
He lost his friend. He's got, like you said, huge shoes to fill if he decides to pick up this shield. And then there's the whole layer of, will people even accept me as their Captain America? Like, they weren't there in that moment where Cap handed me the shield and said, no, this is yours. So like, yes, I am Cap's chosen successor, but are people going to believe me? Are they going to accept me? Because
exactly,
like you've been saying, the show has been dealing with those racial overtones, particularly with respect to the way that the government has treated its vets, particularly its Black vets.
Because we could go for days about how vets have issues that they're still dealing with. I know people in the military now who have been struggling to get out because of injuries that they've sustained while in active duty. And they're struggling to get government aid, even though that's something that's promised to them when they sign up. Like, veterans have it hard. And you have Sam here who's like, yeah, I've been in the military. I've fought Thanos. You know, I've had all these things that I've done alongside this amazing man. And this amazing man has still been able to be the shining light. I don't know if I can be that shining light because these things weigh differently on me and for me. And it's like, you can believe in yourself, you know?
I know.
Like you, Sam, we do.
Like I said, he's so wholesome.
He is
the struggle because he's sad. And I want to point out that he has not genuinely smiled through this whole show. Like, he's done a couple like fake smiles, like when he was on the date, but he has not genuinely felt joy at all. So he's just kind of sad. Like,
yes,
and he's
yes.
But for Sam, he's just a wholesome dude, and I feel like his decision, especially in that therapy scene where he's trying to explain to Bucky that the decision he made had nothing to do with Bucky and it had nothing really to do with Steve. He was trying to make the best decision, like, just in general. Like, he was like, this is I did what I believe was best for everybody. And I thought this was it, and that I was honoring his legacy. And I do think he was honoring Steve's legacy in making that, because his choice was not, how does this benefit me? It's, how do I make a good, truly moral decision, even if it hurts?
Yes.
And that to me was like the essence of Captain America.
I agree. It's amazing how people don't realize how much alike they are. And it breaks your heart really to see, because he did that because let me back up. He did that to show respect to Steve. that theme of respect is just coming full circle, ain't it? Like he wanted to sit there and be like, I have respect for this guy. Too much respect for me to sit here and try to be him, because I am not him. You know, I respect this man. I see what he has done. I've been by his side. I see this guy, once again, putting him on that pedestal. And he's like, I can't be him. I'm not going to try and be him, which is one of the reasons why seeing John Walker in that suit is just so distasteful, because it's like, no, you don't understand. I did that out of respect. And you, by just taking the shield and saying, all right, I'll do it, you are being all kinds of disrespectful right now. It's not, we haven't even gotten to me. We haven't even interacted yet, but I already see the amount of disrespect you're willing to show. And then you come talk to me and just make a complete butt out of yourself. It's terrible.
Oh, it's just so crass.
So, oh my gosh.
But yeah, no, I think in making that move and being so selfless, that just proved that Sam is the right choice for Captain America.
Yeah.
In ways
not to mention, I mean, yeah, Bucky has had the mantle before, but he's a fugitive. Like, he just got exonerated. Like, give the man some time, you know, like he's not the best choice right now. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and the therapy scene was fun, in my opinion, to see them going back and forth, but like to have the fun, we're having a fun time, we're like being antagonistic to each other, and then to just insert that moment of realness with poor Bucky, who believes he, like, Steve saw him and made a mistake in believing in him so much. Just that self-doubt, and like you can see his eyes watering, and it's so heartbreaking for poor Bucky. I thought that was wonderful, a wonderful scene too.
Yes, it was so well written. I was mad at Sam a little bit though, because I'm like, this man just opened his heart to you. The therapist hasn't even heard this yet, you know? That was a real moment that you could have used to be like, okay, I understand now. I see why you're upset, you know? And, you know, Sam's got his own things to worry about. So I'm not saying take on Bucky's emotions because you can barely deal with your own. I get that. I'm not saying that. But at the same time, the man was like, what if he was wrong about me? I'm 106. What am I supposed to do? You know, like, most people are sitting here struggling to figure out what they want to do with their life. You know, by the time you turn 30, you're like, oh, I'm so old. What am I going to do with my life? You know, he's 106. Okay. He's starting all the way over. He's got this over life crisis. It's not even a minute. His life is essentially over life crisis going on. And the only thing he has to hold on to is the fact that he had this friend who believed in him for also 105 years. And with you giving away the shield, it's like, so 105 years of him believing in me was for naught? You know, that's some heavy stuff. And when he said it, change the subject. I can't.
I was going to say, I feel like we've got to touch on one more thing and then wrap it there. Yes. Because we need to talk about that cliffhanger. We need to talk about that cliffhanger ending, because we've come back around to Captain America Civil War. Here comes Baron Zemo.
He's back. He is back.
And we don't.
Yes.
As yet, we haven't seen too much of him. This was kind of like the stinger with U.S. Agent at the end of the first episode, where we kind of get the introduction of this nefarious foe that we're familiar with, if you are a fan of Captain America, which if you are here right now, still, I would imagine you are. First off, I just want to say his face looks fine to me.
Yeah. He kind of cute. You know, he... It's a little pristine skin, you know what I mean? Like, he's got nice, you know, not too many blemishes, a couple of wrinkles, but you know, that'll happen with prison pillows. You know, I assume prison pillows aren't nice, so he's got a few wrinkles, but nothing like,
it's like
comic book wise, you know,
200 count thread count pillows.
Yes.
But yeah, he's doing okay, because you know, in the comics his face is all messed up, and that's why he wears the mask. So I'm wondering if that is something that we're going to see.
To witness?
Yeah, to see his face get so messed up at this point, because I don't know, we know he's going to be wearing his mask eventually, right? And people are going to be getting superpowers through the power broker, which is a process that not everybody comes out of looking okay. Like,
yeah,
some people get, like, you know,
pretty messed up.
Yeah, pretty messed up from that process, at least in the comics. So I'm wondering if we're going to see a little bit of a tie-in here with all the power broker stuff, and maybe his face gets messed up, or maybe like the Flag Smashers punch it in, or maybe Bucky pushes it in.
Someone's got to punch his face in, though. I think that's a prerequisite, you know, like you don't get cast as Bear Zemo and don't get your face punched in.
I think he deserves it too. After the whole Civil War said, you know what, karma's probably coming for us.
Yeah.
But yes, there's much more to come. I feel like next week we need to see the introduction of Sharon, right? Like, Sharon's got to be
yes. Yes.
And she, you know, is on the run partially because of Baron Zemo, so I bet she has an axe to grind with him as well.
I don't think it's going to bode well for this guy to get out of prison. Like, I think he should probably stay there. Like,
I know, he's probably better off.
You're better off in prison. Don't even worry about it. Your face is at least better off. I know that much. Okay.
But yeah, there's so much to come. Cree and I will be here to talk about all of it, but for now, I think we need to call it quits.
Yes.
We went through everything. We talked about John Walker and Red Wing, Isaiah Bradley. We talked about Carly and Zemo and Bucky and Sam. So I hope you've had your fill of the Bucky this after show. We will be back next week to break down next week's episode. Thank you so much, particularly if you have stayed with us this long. Leave your comments below, what you thought about the episode, what you thought about our thoughts, and we will see you next week. So have a nice week, guys.
Bye.